Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. A strong crew of three in here today with Jeff Case and myself, Paulie, as Jared is on his way to football tailgate with his parents and then go to the football game after. And Daryl is en route to Bourbon and beyond. So those two with the previously planned activities, but we have got a lot to talk about today. So although we'll miss them, we will handle the fort down quite handily, I do believe. I mentioned Jeff and Case in here with us today, and as we kind of like to do at the start of the show, catch up with the guys and see what's going on with them. Jeff and I were kind of chatting about some things earlier on, and we're glad that we had air conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking. Jared has been without air conditioning for several weeks now, apparently, until just I guess yesterday, and we had not realized that that was an ongoing thing. We thought that had been dealt with previously, so we were sympathizing with Jared and Katie there. So
Since the last home soccer game,
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
which
So
I have the schedule pulled up right in front of me.
three
That
weeks.
was September
Yeah,
8th.
well, you're looking back at it, the last game they played for soccer was.
I take it back. It was not the last home soccer game. It was the last home soccer game I was able to attend.
Mm.
Oh,
which,
okay. Yeah,
which was against Evansville on September 1st.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Well, so they have their air conditioning fixed, which we're glad for them. We did
yeah.
not
It seemed to
realize
be a
that it had.
coil problem. Yeah,
Yeah, but I had not realized that it had been such an ongoing thing. So, yeah, that's not fun.
no, it isn't really. Gosh, I mean, years ago when I lived in the house that I rent out now on Delore with Sonia, we did not have central air. We had window units, and so we had those strategically placed three of them around the first floor. The basement on its own stayed pretty okay. It never really got too hot down there, being a basement.
Yeah, right.
And it was only a one floor house. There was no upstairs. So we had air conditioning going in the living room and in the one of the main bedroom and also in the I guess what you would call the den, or I called it my computer room because that's where I had my laptop set up. But and those window units usually did a pretty good job. The problem is that you've got to change filters in them and you've got to check them all the time. And if one goes out, they are a bear to get in and get out of
Yeah,
the window.
yeah.
Oof. So I'm glad I don't have to go back to those things. Uh, it looks like, of course, Jeff volleyball's rolling along very nicely right now. Things seem to be going pretty good.
I, yeah, rolling is yeah. Uh, this is a brutal stretch of the schedule, so I'm not sure. I mean, they're getting lots of wins, so they're doing well in it. But man, it's a brutal stretch of the schedule, and so I'm not sure that I'd say just rolling along because that suggests an ease of casualness to it, and it's not been that. It's been exciting and hard play. So hard matches to win. So, but yeah, they have been winning. So in spite of that, so which is good, very good.
and we've been fortunate enough to be able to get either those on TV or on the internet and watch those. Of course, the last time that was at UK,
Hmm.
where they were able to get out of there with a set triumph over the Kitty Cats.
Four,
And I
four set.
understand it. Or four set, I'm sorry, Kitty
Yeah.
Cats. And
You're
I
used
understand.
to it going five against Kentucky because it
Oh,
so often
always,
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Give me the idea on Memorial here, Jeff. I understand they've done a lot of renovation. What did you think?
Yeah, it's the renovations were, I think, very well done. They've got some really nice touches to it. The elephant in the room, it's now air conditioned, so that's a good thing. clearly.
I can't get away from air conditioning today.
Yeah, desperately needed that addition, so I'm glad they did that. New seats, which is good. Still benches in parts, but new benches, new metal based benches. Um, I'm a little surprised they went with benches still and parts of it. I'm guessing they didn't want to take the reduction in capacity that would come from putting in actual seats instead of benches. But
Or upstage Rupp Arena.
yeah, potentially, yeah, something like that. But they're nice, they're well done. They took a lot of one of the nice touches I thought they mentioned this on air is they took the wood from the previous seats. There were wooden seats, and they kind of did kind of a couple of accent walls with them. With those pieces of wood, and you actually still see the seat numbers engraved in some of them. So it's kind of cool. They have a kind of club area built over top of that main entrance now, built up that big open space that was, coming in the main entrance that was
Right.
pretty wasted. Is now they've built up over top of that, and there's on the second floor is that club area where you have to have special tickets to get in there and but get your drinks and overlook the floor that way. Um, yeah, they've kind of opened it up a little more. On the sides, where it was you would come in like through little channels. Now there's a big opening, and the concession stands are along the side of that. And it just kind of opens it up a little bit nicer. So yeah, it was really nice. I actually really loved what they did. Jared reported that the some of the backstage stuff, the media room was supposedly much improved. So uh, you know, yeah, it sounds like it's a great job all around.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about not only the media room, I think the last time I was up there was in 2022 for volleyball. Maybe that was the last time we were up there, right?
hmm Uh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
because I sat up there with the director of the AVCA. She was sitting next to me, Kathleen DeBoer, and that media room back there was kind of it was just as bad as it always was. It was horrible. Uh, and they gave you Pizza Hut. They brought Pizza Hut for the media to eat, and it had been sitting somewhere for a while, so it wasn't fresh, hot, and warm.
Probably at Pizza Hut.
Probably so. Either that in some joker's car. But then you had to go up and down the steps that led into the media entrance there, and that was a pain in the butt too, especially when it was dark and they weren't lit. But I'm glad to hear about the improvements. I also kind of wondered over on that one side of the arena where the students used to sit over there in I think they were wooden bleachers.
Yeah, I think they were like the portable ones, like the aluminum ones that could move in and out, and they
Okay.
just sit them over there. Yeah, that's now actually built in, very steep bleachers for the student section. There's kind of like four little sections alongside there.
Oh,
One section they had the band in, and then the three other sections had students in it. With two of the students were wearing red, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a choice.
that's
I'd go with
brave.
I'd probably go with white. You still
Hey,
wear a white Volvo shirt, and then
yeah,
yeah,
at least you
something
don't stand
gray,
that as much.
yeah, something
yeah.
like that one.
I will say the other uh, choice that was made was the probably student. I think he was probably student. In the middle of the fourth set was apparently decided to depart and walked right in front of the big group of Louisville fans that I was sitting with. Most, all the pass list tickets and other stuff like that. A bunch of other people had kind of become a center of gravity for the Louisville folks to kind of sit around. And he goes by in the middle of the fourth set and starts throwing L's down and trash talking as he's walking in front of this
Whoa.
group. And we just all kind of looked at it and just pointed at the scoreboard. It's like, scoreboard, dude, come on. It's like
Yeah,
that's a choice to choose that time to do it. So
I can remember years ago when I was at a UK UofL football game, and they always put the Cardinal fans way, way up in the top left-hand corner of Commonwealth over there, where you could actually touch the planes as they flew over the land of bluegrass. We were way up there high, and we had, of course, UK fans in front of us, and those are probably the cheapest tickets I think the UK fans could get. So you had a great selection of UK fans there, and
Yeah. This was a little bit similar. I mean, I don't know about the fans in front of it, but we were in the upper section, kind of over in the corner a little bit. So, yeah, not the best. It's not the worst example of that I've seen. That would probably be at Nebraska when we played there at Devaney Center. I did not go to that one, but I did. I heard some of the folks talking about it, and saw actually on the telecast that all of the pass list tickets for U of L were in the end zone, but not just in the end zone. And keep in mind, Devaney seats about 8,000 people, right? The very top rows. Literally, some of the people could reach up and literally touch rafters.
wow.
Yeah, it was like, really, Nebraska? Come on. I generally like Nebraska, but that was kind of like, yeah, come on. Yeah.
So the fun of going to road events, never,
Yeah.
ever anything that is anything but fun and
Yeah.
challenging.
There can be a really real variety of hospitality levels. Maybe the worst experience that I've had was at Maples Pavilion in Stanford. Uh, Frankly, the folks there were just downright rude, including the ushers. Um, and on the flip side of that, probably the best experience I've had has been the few times I've gone to Notre Dame. Purcell Pavilion. They have always been super gracious and welcoming and friendly. The ushers and staff, and even other fans there. So it can be a variety.
If it makes you feel any better, I think the rudeness thing is cultural at Stanford. I noticed whenever I was looking at their schedule today for
Yeah.
field hockey, they called the game that they played against Bellarmine a neutral game. I assume
Yeah.
because it was played on Traeger, and I'm like, that's where they play their home field hockey
Yeah,
matches.
that's
Like
technically an away game,
that
folks.
was
'Cause
that was a
that's
road
their
game. It's not neutral.
that's their home field.
Yeah. So I don't think they really care too much to pay
Yeah.
attention to others.
Oh gosh, as far as road trips go, though, and then we'll get into the show here in just a little bit while we're done wool gathering. But I think for road trips and stuff, I think the best time I ever had was at Virginia Tech for football, and this was a trip where we went up on a bus and we parked on this hill that was kind of adjacent to the big stadium there, and we looked down the hill, and there were about maybe 50 tables set up, and curious that we walked down the hill to see what was going on there. And we asked the guy, and we got closer and closer. We saw every type of food you could imagine.
Hmm.
There were grilled meats, there were cold cuts, there were vegetable dishes. They was all out there, and it all looked so good. And we'd been on a bus for like 6 hours, to get there and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I kind of walked up to a guy and I said, "How much does it cost to go through this?" He looked at me and scratched his head. He says, "It don't cost you nothing, son. Just get a plate and go fill it up."
Yeah.
that
That's
was
nice.
that was music to my ears. We were
Yeah.
yeah. We ate and ate and ate. And that was the game we played Virginia Tech up there, and we almost had them beat. That was when Braun was still quarterback, as a matter of fact.
Mm.
Which one?
Jeff and yeah, Jeff and
Yeah.
the Virginia Tech band was in the end zone, and they were over there taunting the Louisville fans in our section over there. So we started throwing peanuts to them, and it was great. It was like overgrown squirrels. We'd throw a peanut out there and it'd land in the end zone. They'd run over and pick it up and eat it, and then shoot us the bird, and then run back to their little group. And we'd throw more peanuts out there. It was great. It was like feeding obnoxious squirrels. Uh, but yeah, that was a fun trip up there. But the worst road trip Uh, and they were still the worst road trips I'll ever remember. We're going to Memphis for football. Oh, good God, they did not like Louisville, and they did
Mm.
not like Louisville fans. And yeah, some of the stuff there was well, yeah. I'm glad that we don't play them in things anymore. Very glad. But getting on into the show a little bit then today, I thought we'd maybe start it out a little bit with women's soccer, as they've been on a kind of protracted or kind of extended, was it 14 game, what do you call it, halftime intermission or something? They've played 9 games, they've got 9 games to go, and right in between the two is a 2 week break. Explain that to me, Case. What's the deal there?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think it was just a quirk of the schedule. Um, it seems kind of like Louisville ended up with back-to-back buys, um, where they didn't play a midweek game last week. They also didn't play don't play a weekend game this week. Um, that's just kind of the way it went. So their last game, they didn't play a Sunday because they played Saturday night at Pitt. And then, like I said, no midweek last week and no weekend game this week. So their next game is not until Thursday night against Virginia Tech. I don't know why. I wouldn't be particularly thrilled about it if I was the team or Karen Ferguson days, because now they will not have a break for the remainder of the season. They'll play every 3 to 4 days from now on, which is very unfortunate because, like we were talking about just before the show started, it doesn't get easier from here. So maybe it's good that they're coming off of their first 2 losses of the season. They got a long time to regroup, but also that's a long time to not play actual opponents in a soccer game before you play your ACC schedule, which is anything but simple. So we'll see, but yeah, that's 12,
I'd be
12 days between games is
Yeah,
easy.
I would be worried about not having a break for the rest of the way. I also would be worried about coming out pretty flat in this next
Yeah,
game.
that's
Yeah,
what I mean. Like, you're coming off a loss and then you go on the road. I mean,
Yeah,
a 12-day break from a road loss to a road game. It's just
yeah,
Louisville was not done any favors by ACC scheduling in this instance, and I really don't get why. It doesn't. Whatever the algorithm is that just throws the schedules together, apparently has no human oversight to be like, oh, their 2 buys are back to back. That doesn't make
yeah.
very much sense. Like, just change that, make it so that that doesn't happen, because I doubt that it happens for anybody else. If it does, then they'd need to take another look at the algorithm.
yeah. You would have figured there could have been something they could have done there, like thrown in a non-conference opponent or something. I mean, come on, just
Well,
to stay tuned up.
they may be limited on games they can
Yeah.
play.
Yeah,
Well, right now the way it looks, they've got 18 games before conference play, if they make conference play.
The tournament, yeah. Which we still don't know what the format is.
Conference tournament play.
Like,
yeah.
is it changing? Who knows? If you
Is
Google it, nothing comes up.
What was it last year? It was 6 teams.
6 teams. It's been
Yeah.
6 teams since COVID. Now there's
Didn't
18
we
teams in the conference. Like,
see it was 12
Third.
teams now?
if you saw that, I didn't see it.
Maybe I thought I didn't. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But I thought I saw something where it was 12 teams now. I could be thinking of something else. But and then I think your top 4 get a bye, and it's a play in to play them. Uh, I could be wrong though. But anyway, we'll check into that further on and have an answer for you later on in the week. Uh, Looking back on the last time out for the Cards, they were in Pittsburgh to take on the Panthers, a Panther team that came into the match at 6-1-1, certainly having their modicum of success, I guess. They got a draw with Georgia. I'm not sure how that rates in the women's soccer world, and they lost to Buffalo. Which kind of raises an eyebrow there, but their wins. Let's take a look at this. They beat Duquesne, Bucknell, Loyola Marymount, Cal State Fullerton, Dartmouth, and Mercyhurst. I don't sense a bunch of powerhouses there. But in case 3-1 loss to Pitt though up there. What happened?
Revenge. uh, Pittsburgh was playing really well last year, um, ranked in the top 15. They came into Lynn Stadium and Louisville stunned them with an upset, and Pitt didn't really recover from there. Um, Made it to the NCAA tournament, but didn't do very much. So I think that getting Louisville back in Pittsburgh, the offense for the Cards has really tailed off after the first two games. They scored 10 goals in the first two games and have only scored 13 goals since then. It's not been great. They scored 3 against Evansville, but haven't scored more than 2 in any other game since then. 1 goal in the last 2 games after a 1-0 loss against Dayton before the Pittsburgh match. So, the offense has struggled a little bit, and then defensively, they're playing without Aaron Floyd. So that's not great. They brought Kaylee Kimball in to be what I think was maybe a challenger to Floyd, and then in preseason determined that she was going to be a worthy backup, and now she's getting starts. So I don't love that, but that is what it is. It's not. There's not somebody else on the roster that you're turning to, and to take nothing away from Kimball, she had 8 or 9 saves against Pittsburgh. So the defense is not doing what they were doing earlier on and keeping teams away from the net. Louisville got a shutout against Bellarmine, and they didn't have a clean sheet again until the Evansville match. So they were definitely some advantage was being taken out of the defense, but it seemed like they had cleaned it up a little bit, and then not so against Pittsburgh. So yeah, it seemed like a lot of the good vibes that were rolling, before we got to September 8th against Dayton, those good vibes seem to have disappeared over the last 2 games, and we'll see if they found them shoved into somebody's locker somewhere in the Lynn Stadium.
Maybe up there in the unused bathroom up on the no.
Just to clarify, also, I did find the bracket. It is still 6 teams. So.
I thought. Well, I don't know why. Oh well, boy, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But then again, some of the ACC decisions don't make sense to me to begin with, and this is certainly one of them. Jeff, let's take a look at this. We've seen this in past years. I think with women's soccer as well too. We'll start out and we'll get 4 or 5 wins, and then all of a sudden, it's like the doors have been shut on us, and we can't do anything the rest of the way. It's kind of depressing, really, in a way. But taking a look at what's ahead. Thursday at Virginia Tech. Next Sunday, North Carolina State comes to town, and then the Thursday after that, October 3rd, a trip to UNC. Wow, those 3 just sound like they could be 3 more in the L column. I hate to say it, but it just sounds that way.
Yeah, and I think that that pattern of getting some early wins and then taking a bunch of losses later in the season, it lines up with non-conference and conference play.
Yeah.
ACC conference, we know, is a very good conference. It's got a lot of good soccer teams in it, and I just don't think we're quite up to that standard with this program right now. And I always talk about wanting to see improvement year over year. As long as I see improvement, I'm okay with it. And I think we've already seen that to some degree. I think we're already above our win total for last year,
Yep.
if I remember correctly. So, we already have evidence of some improvement. So let's keep on. But we don't tend to schedule very aggressive outside of conference, and then knowing that the conference is going to be a good conference and that's going to give us plenty of challenge. It's interesting to contrast that with some other some of the other programs, volleyball and field hockey, both come to mind as also scheduling very aggressively out of conference. But hopefully we'll continue to see this improvement, and we can kind of then slowly start ratcheting up those non-conference opponents into a little more competitive, and maybe get some more prep as the program grows and improves.
And we can only hope that that's the case. That they can etch out a few more wins in this schedule. But I'll tell you, the ACC women's soccer is very tough competition indeed. So
I would like to point out that let's not compare this NC State team to NC State teams in the past. If we lose the game to NC State at home, we have real problems to worry about for the remainder of the season. This NC State team is 3-5-1 on the season. Their goal difference is just +4, 14 and 10 goals given up. They just lost to Cal 3-1. They drew against Appalachian State and East Carolina, or drew against Appalachian State, lost to East Carolina, lost to Campbell, lost to Rutgers, lost to William and Mary. Their wins are over VCU, Charlotte, and George Washington,
which are terrible teams, but they're not spectacular either.
They're not good.
Yeah.
So if we lose, then we can start like sky is falling. Like I think that should be one that Louisville can get back.
Yeah.
And maybe it's their first win in the ACC this season, but that's fine. This Virginia Tech team is probably going to be difficult. They're second in the league right now. It's early, obviously, but 7-2-1 on the season. They've scored 15, given up 5. They're doing pretty decent. SMU, as a funny quirk, is first in the league. Just as a result of they've played 3 games and most other teams have played 2. Wake is the only other team that has, Wake and Syracuse, are the only other teams that have played 3 games. Wake has a loss and Syracuse has no wins. So, yeah, I think that I'm not ready to write this team off yet. Losing to Dayton was always a possibility. It would have been nice to pick that win up or at least a draw, but that is what it is. And then the Pittsburgh game, it was unfortunate. So what they can't do is get blown out by Virginia Tech on the road and then rock up back into Lynn Stadium and lay an egg against NC State, because then we'd have huge problems. But we'll see.
That could be a real humiliating kick in the shins there, so to speak. Yeah, let's hope that does not happen. But it's just like I've seen this movie before. Okay, I think we need to go to a different theater.
I mean, you've got to win the NC State game, because you mentioned that game against UNC. After that, that's not just the game against UNC. That's a weekend road trip to Tobacco Road. They're playing UNC and then Duke on the road, and those 2 games are going to be brutal. You'd like to have as much momentum as you can carry into them, just so that something can soften the blow before you potentially get waxed down there.
Hope the best for them, and if you want to see them maybe win a game, like follow Case's suggestion, come on out to the NC State game when they're at Lynn. Hopefully, you'll get to see one there. That would be a nice win to see. Moving it on over, let's talk a little field hockey. They were actually in action yesterday, believe it or not, as they played newcomer Stanford in the league in field hockey and got a 2-0 win over the Cardinal as they welcome them. I think, I don't know if they've ever played Stanford in field hockey before this.
I don't recall it happening, but that's
I don't either.
Yeah.
And it was the the first conference game for both schools, as the Cards have. This has not been a stellar field hockey team, even though we're still in the top 15 in the nation so far this year. I mean, gosh, it just they went into this thing 3-3, and of course, when you take a look at Louisville field hockey and then the standards that Justine Sauer always tries to kind of put out there for the team to meet, they had a couple of exhibition games early on where they were able to beat Indiana and Bellarmine. I'm not really sure why they called the Indiana game an exhibition game, but they did. Okay, that's fine. So that happens. They won both of those, but then went to Maryland, took a tough loss up there in 2 overtimes against a very good Maryland field hockey team. Were able to beat American after that in a nice shutout win, but then lost to Princeton. Turned around, and this was the part of actually a 5-game homestand where they started it out on a Friday, losing to Princeton, but they turned around Sunday and beat Penn. The next week brought in Northwestern, which is perhaps the best field hockey team in the nation. Lost to them 2-0, and then turned around on that following Sunday and then beat Cornell 4-3. Ended up yesterday beating Stanford at 2-0.
And yes, we have played Stanford before. In fact, a number of times.
Oh gosh,
We have met 7 times. We lead the series 5-2. The last meeting was October 15th, 2019. And
oh wow,
we won 3-0 against Stanford. So
how about that? I didn't even remember those guys.
I didn't remember it either. Yeah. So I don't have the full history here, but yeah.
6-2 all time after yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. 6-2 after yesterday. Yes.
Them being a part of the conference now. It's
Yeah.
a strong team, I think, that plays us very, very closely. We got some outstanding goal play in that game against Stanford, and got lucky early on when Chloe Plum had one basically fall right in front of her, in front of the goal.
Well, look at here.
And said, "Oh, gee," and there's nobody tending the net. Well, okay, goal.
Well, it was on her own rebound, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you make your own luck sometimes.
She shot one. It came right back to her, and she said, "Oh, try again. Okay. Oh, that goalkeeper moved. Okay, well, nice." they, so they got a goal in the second, and they also scored in the third. Actually, I think it was on a penalty corner attempt on, if I remember right.
It was.
Izzy Bianco had the winning shot there, which and normally when they do the penalty corners like that, it's usually the plum to plum connection, where one plum will inbound it to the other plum, and then the other plum will take the shot, as a rule. In this case, though, it was Izzy Bianco who ended up scoring on that penalty corner. And I didn't see who the assists were from, but it was a completely different configuration for that particular penalty corner. But Stanford came in and fired at us, guys. I mean, they did not kind of roll over and say, "Oh, gee, you're at ACC school and we're scared." They took the fight to us the whole time, I think.
That was a Sophia Parker penalty corner, stopped by Mia Dugers, and then scored by Bianco. Stanford definitely was ready to go. They were not deterred, I guess, by coming in to play their first ACC match. Helped that they had, as mentioned earlier, they were coming off of a win in the same stadium, having beaten Bellarmine 4-0 just a couple of days prior. But yeah, the first quarter was a ton of action. It was the most offensively productive quarter for both teams. Louisville had 6 shots. 2 of those were on frame. Stanford had 3 shots. 2 of those were on frame. Louisville had 3 penalty corners. They ended up with 5. They got progressively closer to a goal on every penalty corner, and then finally scored on the 5th one. Blocked shots on the first 2, saved shots on the second 2, and then a goal. So, yeah, Stanford was a very aggressive early, but after that 3-shot first quarter, Louisville's defense really kind of stepped it up and took away a lot of opportunities. Stanford got a one shot in the second quarter that was saved, and then they had only one more shot for the rest of the game. So once Louisville got ahead there at the end of the second, it really took some wind out of Stanford's sails, and it may also have been that after they got that goal, they played a little more defensively. Not necessarily parking the bus, because parking the bus up 1-0 in a field hockey match would be absolute insanity, but not stretching themselves so thin and exposing themselves to counterattacks quite as easily. But I'm not really sure what to make of this Stanford team. They've been good in field hockey in the past. They didn't really play anybody this year. So I don't know. I think it's to be determined exactly how good this Stanford team is. They're not ranked, and we'll just see.
I know with Stanford, my default is if the program doesn't make money, they're probably good.
Right. That's usually what the non-revenue sports, Stanford is there for them.
But, I don't know if that's the case here, but
the Cards were able to shut them out in this one. As we mentioned, 2-0. Louisville really did need this win, guys, and that's true. When you think of salaries teams and you think of the top 10 performances and you think of throughout the years and then the success that they've had in women's field hockey, of course, obviously in the ACC and nationwide, to kind of see this team going into this one 3-3, you scratch your head a little bit and you're like, what's going on, Justine? Although when you take a further look at it, like I mentioned, the losses themselves, the 3 losses they had, were against very, very good opponents, guys. Northwestern, and maybe the best team in field hockey. And they only lost that one 2-0. And even though it was here, still, anytime you can play the number 1 team in the nation that close, okay, that's okay. I lost to Princeton. That's the one where I kind of scratched my head. Although Princeton is one of those schools that plays up there in the Ivy League, that it's a conference that is very good in field hockey. And then, of course, the loss to Maryland, another top 5 team, I think. So maybe the losses I shouldn't worry about too much, but still just seeing 3-3 and now 4-3, of course, and hopefully a chance to go to 5-3.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think any of those losses are really going to hurt this team too much, right? And you're losing all 3 of those are top 15 teams, or at least were at the time that we played them. I haven't looked at the rankings since then, but that's not that doesn't look bad when you're talking about postseason play. We also do have a field hockey tournament in the ACC, so there's another chance to burnish your schedule, and there's plenty more field hockey to play and to play a bunch of really good teams because again, it's ACC. It's also very good in just across the board in the conference in the sport. So we're gonna get plenty of times to go out there and say, hey, look, we're a pretty good team. We've got to do it, but we have plenty of opportunities to do that, where these 3 losses are going to end up being, yeah, okay, sure. The top teams are going to beat up on each other a little bit, and that's okay.
Very true, Case. And an issue that I'm looking at here, too, is that we kind of get a break in this next one, going up to Ball State tomorrow. Ball State out of the MAC, of course. I don't know what their field hockey team has done this year so far, but obviously it's a step down from having to play a Stanford and a Northwestern.
Yeah, I feel a little bit the same way about this Louisville field hockey team as I feel about the Kentucky volleyball team, where I'm pretty sure they're good. Like I'm pretty sure they're good, but everybody talks about, well, all their losses in Louisville's case on field hockey, all their losses are to top 15 teams. Princeton has now fallen to 18, but they're still ranked. All their losses are to ranked teams, but they haven't beaten any ranked teams. Similarly with UK volleyball, all their losses are to top 10 teams. It's like, well,
yeah,
every top 10 team they've played, they've lost. So
yeah, Ball State's 1-4. It's
yeah,
not exactly spectacular.
No. Sure. Ball State, bad. I'm saying, like, I don't know how I feel about the Louisville field hockey team, and I don't think this Ball State match will tell us anything. Oh, well, unless
yeah.
they don't win.
Unless
handily,
we,
then
unless
would
we
learn
lose, then,
something.
then you're really scratching your head a lot. But yeah,
It could tell us something. Yeah, for sure. I don't think a win tells us anything against this Ball State team. So, yeah,
They've
like I said, I
had a
think they're
rough
good,
go of it.
and we'll see.
Yeah, it's been kind of rough for them. They
yeah.
fell to St.
Losses.
Francis.
Stanford.
Stanford shut them out 5-0.
Yeah.
They got a win over St. Louis.
So,
Okay.
so by the transitive property, we better beat Ball State 7-0.
Right.
It
Exactly.
hopefully will be a shutout win for the Cards, but then
They
again,
also common opponent, sort of. And again, we played them in exhibition, but Indiana, Ball State lost, 2-0 there, and Kent State lost 1-0. So,
and we think we beat Indiana in strokes.
I
right?
think that was
Yeah.
penalty stroke. Yeah, it was a penalty stroke shootout. Yeah, that's how they got that extra goal. So we wish them the best. It's Justine will get this team straightened out eventually. She'll get them going eventually, and it was very interesting yesterday to hear on the broadcast of the game to hear India Reid and the comments and the things that she was talking about. She, of course, graduated last year, was a very, very outstanding and solid player for the Cards in her time here, and certainly, I think, a Louisville girl as well. She was on the broadcast, and unfortunately, she was with a slow-witted partner on the broadcast. But
gee, I wonder who you think that.
He was at least able to follow the track of the ball. That was nice. And then all he had to do was glance down and look at the number.
Seen worse.
Ball went to. Oh, we've had worse in field hockey. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But certainly not one of my favorites. But India Reid does a great job on that, and certainly love the call that she gave us. So I hope they bring her back for more. I hope they get her back up there to give that expert color analysis that she did, because she played under the salary system for her 4 years. Or was she a 5-year?
At least 5, if not 6.
I think she was
going through COVID year.
Yeah, she was in the salary system a long time, and knows the workings of it, knows the ins and outs of it. She could basically probably sit there and tell you what coach is going to say at halftime when the team goes in. And I've never heard her do a salary imitation, but I think that she's a welcome addition to the broadcasting crew. I hope they keep her. She's a winner. So I guess next we'll take it to volleyball. Certainly always love to talk that with Jeff, who's on top of things when it comes to volleyball. Jeff?
I'm trying to remember the last volleyball match that we talked about here on the podcast, because we missed last week, right? How far back do we have to go to pick those up?
Good question.
Have we talked about Penn State? Do we have to talk about Penn State? I'd rather not.
That one seems like one that should be ignored. I got ready to turn that one on, and then saw what you guys were talking about, and I was like, I'm not going to turn that
on. Yeah. No, I actually do think probably should briefly mention it, because I think there is having watched this volleyball team, starting with Penn State through the Northern Kentucky tournament with South Dakota, Missouri, Northern Kentucky, even a little bit in the Cardinal Classic with UNI and Creighton, and maybe even a little bit on Wednesday against Kentucky. This team has, on occasion, seems to fall into just a little bit of a funk.
They dropped a set to South Dakota.
Yeah.
So I think I think the stats bear that out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, and that was, you Penn State, and then you go to South Dakota and you drop that third set, and oh my God, we looked bad in that third set. I hate to say that, but we really looked bad in that third set. We looked bad for the whole Penn State match. That was just ugly. But there was really this, I was calling a fugue state for a while, and this funk, and what we've seen, I think, even since South Dakota, is in third sets, we kind of get a little bit of this funk coming back in. Although now what I'm seeing is we're getting out of it better. We saw that, Wednesday, even against Kentucky. We lost the third set, and we looked really not very good in the third set. But man, we came out on the fourth and came out on fire. So some grit to the team is what I'm seeing in there to drop something like that and then go, okay, wait a minute, let's reset and come out and play the way we know we can play.
Yeah, I think what's concerning about the lapses that you mentioned is that they're not super identifiable, or the cause of them is not super identifiable. When you look at the South Dakota match, and they lost that third set, they didn't really have that many more errors. Their errors in the South Dakota match were 3-5-6-0. Defensively, they went from holding South Dakota to 0.043, 0.074 in the first two sets, and then obviously the negative set in the fourth that they picked up in that one. They allowed South Dakota to hit 0.29 in that third set. So that was a defensive drop. But then against Kentucky, it was obviously offensive. Their errors went from 5 to 3 to 8 back to 3. And the defense was a little bit to blame there too. Louisville was just out of it. Kentucky's best set was that third set, but that's the struggle you see when you go on the road. You go up 2-0. Halftime is your worst enemy. Jared mentioned it in our group chat. The worst thing that could happen to that Louisville team that was rolling at the end of the second set was to go into halftime, and then they came out of the locker room and they proved it.
And I actually had somebody in the crowd, a parent, in fact, make the suggestion that they not go back into the locker room anymore at set break. Just stay out on the court.
Be like some of those away soccer teams that seemingly forget there's an away locker room in
over in the corner.
Yeah. Don't go back there and get that reset, that time to relax and maybe get out of the aggressive momentum. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something they could do that would help. I don't know.
I was just trying to remember, Jeff. Maybe you can inform me and fill me in on this. We had Sydney Shetland, who played here with us and then went to, was it South Dakota or South Dakota State?
South Dakota State.
Okay,
she's doing quite well up there, actually. She seems to be really thriving up there, which it's basically home for her.
Yeah, she went back home.
That's good. Yeah, she went back home, and she's doing quite well. So we wish her, the best up there. But she's not on that team that we played in Northern Kentucky. No.
Okay, that's what I didn't remember seeing her out there, but I would have thought they would have said something about it. But
different team. We played South Dakota. She transferred to South Dakota State.
So, yeah, she was certainly one that we had a lot of high hopes for here, not only in basketball but also in volleyball when she first came in. But it just unfortunately just didn't kind of work out for her to to do that. But we wish her the best of luck, obviously.
Yep.
So the match against Kentucky, Louisville, they beat the crap out of Kentucky for the most part, other than the third set.
Yeah, and they came out in the fourth and just put it to them. And I, credit to the team overall. They looked really good, I think, in general. If you ignore that third set, and certainly they recovered from it well, which is obviously a good thing to see. And it speaks well of the team. I think there's still a little bit more to clean up, a little bit more to work on, but you can see the team improving and getting a little better, seeing the connections get a little better. There's been some discussion about whether we hang on to the 6-2 or go back to a 5-1 offense. It sounds like at least DBK is quite happy with the 6-2 and where it is. I think they, as a coaching staff, acknowledge that there are some trade-offs in it. But overall, I think I think that they believe the trade-offs are in our favor right now. So,
the only way you get Cabello to be good at the things that she's currently lacking at is to get her the reps.
Right.
I mean, she's missing some of her hitters, but she can't find them without knowing their tendencies and without getting more sets to them. And then, like I mentioned in our group chat, I think she really needs to have more trust in the defense sooner. she kind of remembers late that the defense exists, and she doesn't have to, or she needs to have more trust in the rest of the team to pick up that second ball. She'll like decide she's gonna go for a hit or like a dig, or the first pass, and then at the last moment be like, wait, I'm the setter, I need to get the second ball. And it's like, well, now you've ruined everybody because you looked like you were going to go for a ball for about 5 seconds and then chose not to.
Yeah.
But that's something we've seen since even before Elena Scott, with Molly Sauer was a serviceable setter as well. You've got plenty of people behind you that can put a good second ball up and keep you in offense. If the opposing team finds you defensively and you're the setter, then own it. Just play the ball and let the team recover better than kind of putting a back row player on an island by moving out of the way at the last second and hoping that they can get a better ball.
Yeah.
And again, that's another thing that it just takes reps to get that trust.
Cards with the nice in-state win, and now we'll bring in mighty Nebraska on Sunday, a match that I was fortunate enough to able to get media passes for, so we will be attending that one.
Awesome.
Having to and getting to be able actually park in the arena as well. I was very, very thankful and grateful for the fact that the SID for volleyball was able to set it up where I could park down there in what they call the 100 section or the 100 lot, where you actually come in on the 2nd Street entrance and
turn right.
Instead of taking a left, you take a right.
Yep.
There are elevators close to that area as well. So very, very thankful for her to set me up to do that. And Sonia had eyes. We're going to be able to be media for this event. And certainly it'd be nice to be back in there to watch a volleyball game. Always had fun with it. And always remember, keep your head up.
And this is a big game.
Holy cow. This is a huge one. Yeah, talk about this a little bit here, Jeff. I mean, this is Nebraska. This is Nebraska. This is the Big Daddy.
This is coming into this for the second time during Danny Busman Kelly's tenures, and in the only 2 times that we've played Nebraska. We find ourselves being the 4th ranked team and Nebraska the 5th ranked team, which is not what you would typically expect from Nebraska. They're a perennial powerhouse. They're one of the top teams in the league always, right? But both times we played them now under DBK's tenure, we've ended up being a spot ahead of them in the rankings, and it's both have been 4 or 5. So it's interesting. We stand in the way of Nebraska advancing up the ranks as well, right? Because we're ahead of them, and because they come into this match with another very big win over Stanford, the number 2 team in the country. So they're primed to advance up the rankings unless we can stop them. So it's gonna be up to us to do that if we want to. It's a very good team. They're always good. They've got some great hitters. They've got a really good libero. In fact, the only libero I've heard anyone say would take claim of being the best libero in the country over Elena Scott. And I disagree with that claim. I think Elena's better, but this is the only one that even has a claim to it. So and
when people argue, it's the only other option.
Right. Yes, exactly. They've got some great hitters. They got a bunch of height, a bunch of size. But that's Louisville's a good blocking team. We're back to being a really good blocking team again this year, and that's going to be, I think, how Louisville blocking goes is how this match will go.
You need the team that had 17 blocks in the 3 sets that weren't the 4th against Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if we can come out and our blocking is on point, serve reasonably aggressively. It doesn't have to be super powerful, but reasonably aggressively. Just keep them a little bit out of system. I think we're set to win this thing, and it'll be a big win. It's a signature win. uh, um, even more than the rankings would tend to indicate, because Nebraska is that blue blood of the volleyball world.
This one actually getting to be on national television, guys, and not
Yeah,
on
that's
ESPN.
Network TV,
very
first one
good
ever,
point.
right?
The well, it
First
ha-
regular
it's
season match ever on Network
first
TV, right?
regular season match ever on ABC.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's been like one on CBS.
I think so. Yeah, something like that.
Gotcha.
But I think CBS may have had national championship match or something somewhere, something like that. I don't know. But it's the first regular season match on ABC. It's a big deal, right? As volleyball continues to advance and gain more following, and more people see it and understand it and want to see it. They continue to see this improvement and the visibility of the game, and it's great stuff. There was a documentary film that was done about Nebraska volleyball and Big Ten Network leading into one of their matches, and DBK was interviewed for it, and she was wearing her Louisville gear, so that was awesome. But she talked about, and she's been interviewed here this week by several media outlets, and talks about the advancement of the visibility of the game, and where do you go from here, right? You had 92,000 plus in the Lincoln Stadium. Last year. You're getting more and more games on ESPN and flagship networks. You're getting on network TV now, and what's the next steps? She said, well, how about primetime matches? How about matches where they're showing volleyball instead of some other big sport? Instead of just, oh, well, we can put volleyball here, when we weren't going to really be showing anything of all that much significance anyway. So it's interesting to see the progression. So
Which I think the timing of this match does say something. This is a Sunday at 12:30,
mhm.
and ABC is carrying it. They didn't start it at 11. They didn't start it at 11:30 or noon. They're starting it at 12:30. They are carrying this match against NFL Sunday.
Yep.
That's not nothing.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, that's definitely, uptown. Think about it. It'll be number 4 in Louisville and number 5 in the nation in Nebraska. And you may ask yourself, but Paulie, who are the 3 teams above those 2 stellar programs? And Jeff's favorite school, probably in Division I volleyball, Pitt, is number 1. A big fan of them and their coach up there. Stanford,
They're fine.
Can't
that
believe they haven't
dreaded
dropped a set.
Cardinal out there, they're number 2 in the nation.
Yeah.
And,
Again, a perennial powerhouse there. So.
Yeah, and Penn State, who of course hung Louisville's loss on them, is in 3rd. So those are your top 3. The Cards and Nebraska rounding out the top 5, and then boy, it just looks like it's a very, very strong Big Ten kind of contingent here. You got Wisconsin in the top 7, Purdue in the top 7. There's Nebraska sitting there. Hey, look at Penn State. They're there. Wow, that's 4 out of your top 7. All. And I thought the ACC was the primary large volleyball conference. Not so anymore, it looks like.
The top 5 is going to look rather different on Monday.
It's been
it's going to change.
It's going to look
crazy week.
Going to look weird.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to change because, these rankings are from like the 16th, I think I'm looking at here.
Well, you had Pitt swept Penn State.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, and Nebraska beat Stanford on Wednesday, and then Louisville and Nebraska play tomorrow.
Yeah, this has been an insane week for high quality volleyball. This week particularly has been. Those matchups. We've got Texas and Baylor played each other. I'm trying to remember who all have been playing this week. They've been a bunch of
Louisville and Kentucky.
Top 10, Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, a bunch of just high level top 20, top 15 sort of matchups have all happened this week. And it's been a battle to see and interesting to see. So I'd have to go back and look at them all. But
Nebraska Creighton was last week, but still pretty recent.
Yeah,
it's just kind of the big. It's the big swell right before conference play.
Yeah. And you're seeing, I think it's interesting. You're starting to see a lot of like sports fans in general and sports commentators who maybe, normally, talk about football and basketball and don't spend as much time on other sports like volleyball. You're starting to see some of them talking about it. And I think when you see that, one of the things they're saying is, man, wouldn't it be great? And if in these other sports like football and basketball, that the top teams were actually going at each other like they do in volleyball. Because this has been like, I mean, we're talking about this week, and this week has been particularly exceptional in that, but it's been the whole season. We've had every week, we've had some top teams, top five, top 10 matchups to talk about and watch every week. So it's, you know, this week was exceptional, but it's not like it's unheard of other weeks as well. And it's something you don't necessarily see in the other sports as much.
Certainly going to be a fun gala affair. If you can get down to the KFC Yum Center on Sunday, I think they're probably are they going to open the upstairs for this, Jeff?
They already are.
I was
Yes.
going
Oh,
to
it's
say, I'm
already
sure.
open.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I believe we're set to set another regular season Louisville volleyball attendance record,
Wow.
which would be, I mean, was what last year against Kentucky was 12,760. So
Yeah.
if I believe we may be set to beat that already, and then how many more tickets are sold between now and tomorrow at this time, and World Cup. So
The annoying thing is that you won't be able to tell how many of them are Louisville fans
Well, that's
yes,
true.
because they will be wearing red and white.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of red in that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a UK fan's nightmare. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Oh, the blue gets in, as they say, so I'm sure
yeah,
they'll be there too.
they'll be easy to spot. So
Yeah.
so certainly if you can make it down to this one, have fun with it and enjoy it. We'll certainly be down there, Jeff and I, Jeff up in his seats and me on media row. Who knows? We'll all be sitting with down there. I think the last
I,
time I was in a volleyball match, I got to sit next to C.L. Brown and was very, very fascinating guy to talk with.
yeah, I will say Nebraska fans in general are very gracious. They're very friendly. So if you want to come down and there'll be a lot of them there. They travel well. They'll bring a lot of them. But they generally are friendly folks, and they're not nasty fans. So yeah, should be a fun afternoon.
And certainly, so get to Witherspoon early if you're going to park there because
Mm.
it may just load up. But, we have come to the top of the hour and a little past, so certainly been a fun discussion today, guys, and we've covered some great subjects and topics here. Let's go ahead and roll into our final thoughts. Start us out, Jeff.
I
Haha.
hadn't thought about this. Yeah, come to volleyball. Let's make sure we set another record. Part of the growth of the sport, part of the growth of UofL sport. Let's continue to show that there's a following that was willing to pay money to come watch this team. And then maybe we need to build another arena for it. Um, and yeah, come. It should be. I don't expect this to be a blowout of a match. So if you want to come watch some exciting and really really good volleyball, this is one to do it for.
Absolutely. So, Case, what do you got for me?
Oh, yeah. I'll just mirror kind of the small final thought that I had in the article today. Give some shout outs to softball, who opened their fall ball schedule last night, played Bellarmine, and thumped them with a doubleheader score of 21-5. Home runs in the second game from Katie Thatcher and Maddie Grant. And as Jared put it, so many freshmen that he had no idea who they were. So obviously Bellarmine, like we've talked about before, kind of in the deep sea now with the rest of their programs that were kind of dragged along by basketball. So not a ton of competition there, but still good to see Louisville softball getting off to a good start where they'll try to make some more noise in their 2025 slate.
Absolutely so. And as for me, yeah, just excited to be going back down to the Yum again for volleyball again. It's always fun to go to the Yum for just about anything. And volleyball. It's a very nice venue to go to. I like the way that they kind of set it up for the media on volleyball. We get to be not in the end zone, but on the side court, which is nice. You just have to keep your head up. You
Mhm.
can't, you cannot spend your time gazing at your phone, as C.O. Brown found out a couple years ago. Otherwise, you may almost have one bounce off your noggin. And it's so much fun to watch it at that level and that close to it. I would love to see women's basketball make a similar type of gesture, but I doubt that that will ever happen. We will be resigned to the end zone for that. But it would be fun to kind of sit courtside for women's basketball, but we'll see. They're selling those tickets for quite a bit of money. I doubt that they put media in there. But hey, we didn't cost you nothing today. We appreciate you listening to us. Hope you had some fun, and certainly get on out and watch a nice volleyball match. And certainly, we appreciate you listening to the Cardinal Couple. Have a great rest of the weekend, everybody, and go Cards.